Hello, everyone, and welcome to our breakout session on Microsoft workloads on Google Cloud. I'm Kibler, Senior Product Manager at Google Cloud, responsible for Microsoft workloads on GCP. And I'm joined today by Venkat Gattamneni, who leads product management for all key enterprise workloads, including Microsoft, Enterprise Linux, SAP, and others. We're also thrilled to be joined by representatives from two of our most prominent customers, Agustin Caraballo from Sabre and Brenton Sellati from Wayfair. So here's a quick overview of the agenda for today's session. I'm going to start with a brief overview of the product solutions for Microsoft workloads on GCP, and then I'll hand it off to Agustin and to Brenton, who will share more about the cloud journeys for their respective organizations. Then we'll finish with a few key product announcements, and we expect that there will be a little bit of time at the end, and we'd be happy to stick around and do a little bit of an offline Q&A, so feel free to kind of come up to the front and chat us up. Happy to talk. So yeah, with that, let's get started. So as you can see from this timeline of key product launches, Google Cloud has made a long-term commitment to ensuring a first-class experience for Microsoft workloads running on our platform. That commitment is deep and ongoing, and we're excited to demonstrate it further with a few key product announcements that we'll make later in the session. We think there are three primary reasons why customers choose Google Cloud for their Microsoft workloads. First and foremost is the solid foundation provided by our world-class infrastructure that's secure by design, reliable, and delivers exceptional price performance for any customer workload, not only Microsoft. With respect to Microsoft specifically, we have a couple of differentiated features that I'd like to call out that enable our customers to streamline their CPU-based license costs and optimize price performance. The first is custom VMs, which enable customers to fabricate machine shapes that are perfectly tailored to their workload characteristics. And the second is our sole tenant node offering, which enables customers to overcommit the host CPU by up to 100%, effectively doubling the VM capacity of each host. The second reason is the flexibility of our offering, enabling customers to bring their Microsoft workloads to GCP as they are, and to further optimize and modernize those workloads once they land on our platform. We support the migration of VMs running end-of-life versions of Windows and also provide customer support for Microsoft workload issues with enterprise-grade SLAs. Finally, we strongly believe that Google Cloud is the best platform for modernizing any legacy enterprise tech stack, including Microsoft, thanks to our market-leading capabilities in AI, data analytics, containerized workloads, and our robust portfolio of managed services. I'd also like to call out that we have a broad range of solutions for VDI and DAS workloads, thanks to our partners, who are all leaders in the industry. Again, flexibility and customer choice is a strength of our offering here. If you already have a deep partnership with a VDI provider, we support VDI workload migrations that leverage customers' existing vendor contracts. Or if you're just getting started, our marketplace makes it easy to sign up and work with the partner of your choice. If you'd like to learn more, I believe all these partners listed on the slide are present at Next, so please seek them out. They'll be happy to connect with you. We have thousands of customers running their business-critical workloads on the platform today. And later in this session, you'll hear from two of the largest ones, Wayfair and Sabre, and learn more about how they've successfully migrated, optimized, and transformed their on-prem workloads with Google Cloud. In addition to customers, IDC has also recognized Google Cloud as an ideal platform for operating and modernizing Windows server-based applications, citing our flexible licensing models, simple and transparent pricing structure, and optimization features as key differentiators. Their report is available online, and I encourage you all to check it out if you're interested in learning more. Now, this diagram illustrates the high-level journey that most Windows and SQL Server-based applications follow from the on-prem world to cloud native. And I think it nicely frames some of the amazing stories that Agustin and Brenton are about to share with us. The enterprise cloud journey typically begins with a lift and shift of the on-prem workload with minimal modifications to the workload in this initial phase. A flexible offering is key to successful lift and shift migrations, and you'll hear from the experience of Agustin and the Sabre team. Once landed on GCP, we have a robust set of features that enable customers to fine-tune price performance of their workloads for the cloud environment. And again, Sabre provides a great example of how this is done in practice. While there's a lot to be gained from the lift, shift, optimized journey of a legacy enterprise workload, customers can unlock far greater long-term value by transforming these workloads according to cloud-native best practices and by leveraging GCP's market-leading services for building and operating cloud-native applications. As you'll soon hear, Sabre and Wayfair have both made great strides in this direction. And with that, I will hand the mic off to our customers, starting with Augustine and then Brenton.
Awesome. Thank you, Brendan. Thank you, Claire. Thank you very much. So as Brendan was saying, so I'm here. My name is Agustin Caraballo. I'm an SRE leader at Sabre, and I'm going to connect it a bit with what Sabre does, as well as our journey into the cloud, and actually connect it with what Brendan was describing as our lift and shift approach, and then optimizing the platform as we move forward. So with that, let me get started. So at Sabre, we are in the business of travel. We partnered with airlines, hoteliers, agencies, and other travel partners to retail, distribute, and fulfill travel. Every day, millions of people interact with our platform. We power everything from airport check-in kiosks where you check in to get into your flights, online travel sites like Expedia, Booking.com, we help them provide their content, as well as airline and hotel reservations networks, travel agent terminals, and many other solutions. We are positioned right in the center of the business of travel, and we help our customers connect with people and provide customized solutions for them, as well as drive revenue and operate more efficiently. And the unit that I'm going to tell you today, which is Sabre Hospitality Unit within Sabre, is actually the unit that helps and provide technology for our hoteliers and customers. We are actually one of the leading technology providers in the industry, serving hotels, chains, and resorts for the retailing, distribution, and fulfillment needs. We help them offer rooms and services through multiple different channels, including, as I mentioned, online travel agencies, global distribution system, direct channels, and others. Our platform is a large-scale system that ensures that availability and rates are quickly updated across many different partners, and then allows customers or travelers to actually shop and book those stays. Once the reservation is done, we also provide our hotels with the technology to fulfill that stay by providing tools that allows them to manage their properties. So in this scenario, one use case that we actually leverage from GCP, and we'll dive in a bit more in detail, is when a hotel wants to change a rate or wants to change the price for a room, considering a hotel having many rooms with many rates associated with those hotels, and then translating or extrapolating to a change made at the chain level where many hotels need to change their rate for many rooms, that can generate quickly millions and millions of messages that we then need to synchronize with our partners, online partners. Some of that is what we actually were able to leverage, and again, we'll jump into the details, but we leverage with GCP to actually scale our infrastructure to support that level of messages, synchronize with our partners, and then scale it down when we don't need it. So overall, chances are that if you book a room online, you interacted with your hotel, check into your hotel, you're using our technology in the background. Currently, we operate help our hotels and travelers around 200 countries around the world. We actually have 40% of the world-leading hotel brands trusting Sabre, and we are covering or operating with 50,000 hotels across the world. And our infrastructure helped us achieve 11 billion shopping requests per month to sell their content. So I'll dive a little bit more into the actual migration, the story of the migration into GCP. So as part of our desire to grow and provide a better solution for our customers, we actually partnered with Google to migrate our on-prem environment into the cloud. For our initial migration target, our goal was really to eliminate our dependency with our on-prem data center, also distribute our infrastructure across the world, wherever our customers needed to be running on, as well as scale out quickly and scale down when we don't need it. The overall migration and cutover was designed to minimize the architectural changes on our platform for our first phase, targeting an initial lift and shift approach, again, connected with what Clark was mentioning initially, right, part of that left side quadrant. We approached it that way, and the additional goal was to complete this migration in under a year. With that, our initial online region came in 2021 in Europe, and then our 2 remaining US regions came online in September 2022. During our migration, we actually rely on many different components to make this happen. And we utilize many different technologies within the GCP infrastructure. A few worth mentioning. So part of our migration, as mentioned, we are mainly a Windows or Microsoft shop with over 7,000 compute instances to support everything from all our application stack, everything from front end to our back end, and some of our batch job processing. In order to migrate this, we actually use GCP Google Compute Engine in order to migrate our infrastructure as it was, and again, support the running our .NET application stack. And again, this allows us to minimize the changes required for the stack and allows us to do this migration in the time slot that was required. Another part of the technology or the application stack that we actually leverage is we use bare metal solution to allow us to continue to use our large Oracle RAG transactional database. This again allows us to keep the same performance, keep the same throughput that we have on the existing data center without having to introduce massive changes to our application stack. And lastly, in that area, we also migrated from our SQL Server infrastructure that's used for reporting and analytics over to Cloud SQL and leverage that solution. As I mentioned, by doing this, we keep our data tier almost with no changes, minimizing any changes to our application stack. And then lastly, one area that we did make a decision to improve or change is essentially migrating from our Microsoft MQ and ActiveMQ infrastructure that was used to, again, synchronize messages over to our partners, and we migrated to PubSub. This actually helped us to empower processing over 35 million messages daily and actually not have to scale up or down our messages tier, again, relying on PubSub, and only scale up our workers with our .NET stack. Again, just like any migration, we run into some issues. Some of those we got over with the support of our GCP engineers. I'll mention 2 that were worth mentioning. So one is, as being a Windows shop, our Windows infrastructure, we were looking to be able to scale our infrastructure independently on each region. So as part of that, we actually set up a multi-region Active Directory infrastructure. Along with that, we configure our instances to use AD join to successfully join the domain when new instances are coming up, whether it's for a deployment or whether it is for scaling up. And with that, we accomplished, or we were able to meet our requirements, which were being able to register over 300 instances per minute on ID, on the local ID on the specific region, which allows us to implement a blue-green deployment approach to essentially bring up one stack, bring down the other, and essentially move traffic around. The other part was really more a cloud-based challenge, which was we moved from our on-prem data center with an F5 load balancing solution to actually using GCP load balancing. And as part of that, we collaborated with our GCP engineers to create a health check hierarchy to allow different levels of checks on our instances to ensure that if an instance was saturated or not ready to take traffic, the load balancer will take it down out of the load balancer, as well as if the instance was not healthy, it will be terminated and recreated. But again, those are 2 of the challenges that we encountered as we were migrating. And then lastly, some improvements that we continue to implement, and this plays back to the slide that Clark presented. So we are actually looking to implement sole tenant in our US-based regions to actually reutilize or utilize our existing license agreement for Microsoft products and be able to reduce our Windows license costs, which, again, definitely, given the scale, it is a large part of the cost of running our infrastructure. And then similarly to that, and it was also on the previous slides, we're looking for specific areas where SMT or simultaneous multi-threading can be disabled on workloads that do not require parallel processing and are serial in nature. And those also looking to decrease our Windows license cost. And then lastly, just to wrap it up, I wanted to tell a few benefits that we are getting after we migrated. So when it comes to that, part of the migration to GCP, one of the critical reasons to migrate to cloud was really our desire to run our infrastructure across the world wherever our customers require us to run. So as part of that migration, we were able to distribute our infrastructure, as mentioned, in Europe, as well as in multiple regions in North America. And that actually enabled us to respond to customer demand for local solutions that comply with local data regulations, reduce response time, as well as without increasing our total cost of ownership in the process. As we onboard new customers, we actually saw a significant reduction of our effort to set up new infrastructure and supporting the growth of existing customers. Overall, the time to bring a new customer into our platform when a specific or a dedicated stack is required decreased by 70% on existing locations, and even more so in locations where we didn't have a data center prior to our migration. Another side effect as well is our cost to perform and support our disaster recovery infrastructure dramatically decreased, essentially being able to spin up our DR infrastructure if a disaster occurs or for specific situations. And then lastly, from a benefit perspective, from our security perspective, and talking back to the Windows side, we were also able to significantly reduce the effort to patch our entire infrastructure. And this was really by leveraging our CI/CD pipeline and incorporating or making our gold images with the latest patches go through our normal CI/CD pipeline. So when they are creating a new stack, when they are deploying a new stack, those servers had already the latest security patches. And again, that reduced the overall effort to support our environment. And then lastly, again, going back to the previous slide that Clark presented, as we continue to optimize, continue to look for additional tools to leverage on the GCP environment, we are looking at different things, including RPG to perform our API management and API gateway, as well as Looker and Google Data Studio for analytics. And with that, let me pass it to Brenton. Thank you.
You. All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Brenton Sellati. I am a product director at Wayfair, and I lead a collection of back-end technology teams focused on our catalog, pricing, and supplier platforms. I also lead the machine learning and data engineering teams that support those spaces. And I'm excited to chat with you today about some work that Wayfair is doing, specifically on transformation of some of our cloud operations. So I'm a product guy. You might be wondering why I'm here talking about how to run SQL Server in the cloud, but really this has tremendous leverage for Wayfair's business. And so I'm going to start with what I'd like you to get out of the spotlight. The first is I want to give you a high-level understanding of Wayfair's business and especially the critical role that differentiated merchandising plays for our enterprise strategy. Second, I'm going to show you how Wayfair has been running Microsoft SQL workloads that are critical to that differentiated strategy in GCP since 2021, really smoothly at really high scale. And then finally, I'm going to talk about the next generation of Wayfair's dynamic merchandising technology and how GCP is going to both power that and also enable incremental migration from the legacy Microsoft SQL workloads. So a bit about Wayfair for folks that might not be familiar. We specialize in the home goods category, which is about an $800 billion market globally. There's a very broad set of products that constitute that market. And Wayfair was about $12.5 billion in revenue in 2022. So we're at fairly large scale, but we have a lot of room to grow into that full market opportunity. We have about 20,000 employees spread across North America, Europe, and India. And the goal of all those employees is to bring together products across tens of thousands of suppliers to help tens of millions of customers have a curated retail experience to find those great products they're going to make their home one that they love and can live their best life in. We specialize in large, heavy, fragile items. That's a core part of our category. We actually have a proprietary large parcel logistics network that handles everything from container forwarding from China to last mile delivery and white glove installation in the customer's home. And this is all powered by a set of technology teams that are building proprietary software to really lean into the complexities inherent to our business model and to our market to create durable differentiation for Wayfair that's going to help us grow to really be a market leader in this really large space. So at the core of Wayfair's business is this catalog of over 50 million unique live products. And we want to merchandise those products across a variety of different merchandising experiences. We don't just want to offer the same product to the same customer in a one-size-fits-all. We really want to tailor the product offering to different subsegments of consumers. And so what that looks like is, in addition to the Wayfair brand, we have 4 strategic retail brands, Perigold, AllModern, et cetera. We merchandise those products across 5 different countries, 6 different languages, 2 different segments. So about 15% of Wayfair's revenue, or almost $2 billion, is specific to B2B. And now we also have physical retail stores. We've launched, I believe, 4 or so stores, and we're going to be launching more. And so omni-channel is going to be a core part of what our catalog has to support. Not only do we take a single product and choose how we curate that selection across all those various merchandising instances, we have to also differentiate the merchandising experience. It's not enough to have a product that a customer can look at side by side and see that these are actually the same thing. We want a product that is in Kelly Clarkson Home on Wayfair to look meaningfully different from the AllModern site. And so we have to be able to differentiate the merchandising data as part of creating those great experiences for customers. This is for another presentation, but I just also want to call out that that 50 million product catalog is actually tremendously diverse, and it would have things that you might expect, like area rugs and upholstered furniture. We also have things like lawn gnomes and multi-$1,000 chandeliers. So even within the catalog, if you take away all of that merchandising complexity of sharing different differentiated data and experiences, just the vast variety of product types and how we optimally merchandise those is another large problem. And I just wanted an excuse to get a lawn gnome and a chandelier on the slide. So I'll stop that digression now. So supporting our differentiated merchandising capability today is a 10-year-old system that we call Brand Catalog. And this is built on proprietary Microsoft SQL Server functionality that I'll talk more about shortly. But in essence, this provides a lot of technical jobs to be done for internal teams. Data storage, data triggering, data sharing, the ability to efficiently extend data where you need it, but to have a fallback where you don't. And as a result, over 10 years, and because of that critical nature of this technology, there's a massive footprint of this throughout our enterprise. So hundreds of terabytes of data, tens of thousands of code base references, trillions of monthly reads, and then hundreds of billions of monthly writes. When we migrated this to Google Cloud in 2021, we knew it wasn't going to be possible to actually transform this workload. You really need a cloud-native environment to do the things we'd want to do. So lift and shift had to be feasible, and it couldn't just work in theory, it had to work in practice. And so we've really had a tremendous experience in GCP being able to run this workload and actually grow it since we lifted and shifted in 2021. So this has all been running in GCP for several years now. So now I'm going to do a little primer on how brand catalogs work. They are a unique combination of a brand, a country, and a language. So for example, if you had a Wayfair US English, that could be your main brand catalog 1. Wayfair Canada French might be brand catalog 2. Importantly, those 3 dimensions always have to go together. They're not independently decomposable. Under the hood, the way that we implement that is by taking a master table, say a simple product table for the Wayfair US English catalog, which has a stock keeping unit, a SKU 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's a living room with a linen sofa bed. We now want to merchandise that product in Canada, which needs to have both English and French variations of, in this case, product name, but you can imagine many other different data elements. So what we would do here is we would apply a globalization function that creates a remote record from that master table that allows us to hold different values by different brand catalog records. So in this instance, the Wayfair Canada English record can have a null value because I don't want differentiation. It'll automatically fall back to the Wayfair US catalog. Where I do want differentiation for the Wayfair Canada French version, I can now add that tailored data, and that's what I'll show to the customer. So there's some really nice properties with this where if you don't want differentiation, null values give you a single source of truth still. Where you do want variation, you can add that. So that all sounded pretty good, right? So why are we replacing it? What are the problems? So brand catalog actually is kind of reaching a point where its 10 years have been very successful, but for Wayfair to unlock the next 10 years of growth, the next 10 years of expansion, and really to grow into that full TAM, we need an alternative solution. The first problem with brand catalog, and the biggest one, frankly, is that it blocks migration of data to non-Microsoft SQL databases. In a cloud-native architecture, you have to be able to take data, isolate it, build applications around it. But what do you do when so much of your core merchandising data is locked into shared tables that backend clients don't know what to do with that data? How would I recreate what brand catalog gives me today? So we have to have alternate functionality to really enable that full, distributed services architecture that we envision. Second is that it doesn't have great support for large existing segments of the business like B2B. You might have noticed that store, country, language doesn't include B2B. So again, we've got a multi-billion-dollar B2B business. It deserves first-class support as part of our future state architecture. It's inefficient at handling multi-language countries. A lot of you are really smart. I'm sure you've connected the fact that we probably need to have 2 brand catalogs for Canada, one for French, one for English. If you think about future European expansion, there's many multi-language countries. So again, this is going to become more problematic. It's inefficient at supporting omni-channel. Again, we can work around it, but you have to start overloading the concepts of what it was designed for. And then finally, we're at about 25 brand catalogs today. Just the sheer number of brand catalogs that become the standards by which you manage merchandising becomes unwieldy. Imagine changing the way that lawn gnomes are merchandised, not just once, but 25 times across all the different brand catalogs where we merchandise lawn gnomes. So for all these reasons, brand catalog has really served us well, but we have to do something different for the future. That future is called market context. So that's the solution that will power the next generation of dynamic merchandising for Wayfair, and will give us the extensibility we need for the future. So 2 key things here. One, market context will support all the dimensions of nuance that we need for the business. So going beyond just brand, country, and language, but also to channel and segment. This is extensible, of course, so we can add new dimensions if we want to. We can add additional parameters within dimensions. And these are going to be independently usable. So clients will be able to specify the dimensions of nuance they care about. They won't have to understand that, brand catalog number X, associates to some specific set of context conditions. It's also backwards compatible. So because market context supports store, brand, country, and language, if we already have a brand catalog supporting that, market context can give the client the same payload. Of course, when we're talking about enterprise-level migrations, if you don't have backwards compatibility, you really don't have a viable solution. And market context is not going to be a monolithic mega platform. It's going to be a way of standardizing conceptual dimensions of variation for merchandising in a way that allows teams to decide what components they want to use on the back end to implement those requirements. So it's going to enable distributed ownership of these tremendously flexible dimensions of variation. And then, like I said, lastly, it's going to enable Wayfair to more broadly transform its tech stack to be fully cloud modern. So let's do a quick use case and walkthrough of an example. So imagine that we want to have a shortened product name for a physical retail store in French Canada. So again, shortened name, we have an electronic shelf label, there's limited space, and so we want something that's going to give us that payload back. So in this instance, we'd say an internal client, let's say it's a internal physical retail service, would make a call to our federated gateway. The federated gateway is going to understand market context, and it's going to resolve that to the underlying subgraphs or subservices that need to fulfill that client's request. In this case, it would go to the naming subgraph. The naming subgraph is going to have, under the hood, a set of components that they've used to implement market context. They'll be using a market context dimensions management solution, but beyond that, the way that they implement things like translation workflows, calling out to internal platforms or third-party services, all of that will be up to them to manage, right? And we'll give them some guidelines, but ultimately they can drive an implementation as long as it meets the market context requirements. They're free to do what they want. And so then what comes back is a nice nuanced product name in both French and English for that electronic shelf label. And so a couple things to call out here that are really powerful. One, the client has an intuitive semantic way to specify the nuance that they want. They don't have to specify a brand catalog ID. They just say, I have this store, this country, this channel, these languages, give me what I want. Second, by decoupling the client semantics from the backend data storage, the backend teams now have that flexibility to develop whatever they want in a way that meets the client's requirements while abstracting them from the complexities of the implementation details. And in turn, this is going to allow us to dramatically improve our velocity while allowing clients to have a simplified experience. You can imagine too that with the advent of Gen AI and machine learning, this is very conducive to having ML models optimize over time the various differentiation levers that market context offers at scale. So we're really excited for what the future holds for this solution. Market context is fundamentally powered by cloud-native capabilities that are powered by GCP. I'm not going to go through all of the different parts of the solution that we're using on the right-hand side, but I'm just going to call out a couple of key highlights here. Cloud-native databases are critical for enabling data owners to manage the storage and management of their data. Google's interoperability means that we can essentially create SDKs that allow internal teams to set up those components, to have performance and cost and operational excellence built into it, to treat data as a first-class product requirement, to have integration with BigQuery and analytics and reporting. So for all those reasons, we're able to ensure that teams don't just stand up what they need operationally, but they do it in a way that's going to plug into the rest of the Google Cloud Suite and really make a full offering out of the box. Of course, we're using a lot of event-driven integrations between systems, such as Cloud Run and functions to process tasks at scale. We're eliminating use of slowly changing dimensions tables and fire and forget background jobs. And then lastly, with this distributed architecture, it's critical that we have logging and monitoring for operational excellence. Because if something goes wrong, you need to know where it's going wrong, who's responsible. You have to react to that very quickly, especially for a critical tier 1 system like this. The monitoring capabilities will ensure that not only is this distributed and orchestrated, but there's operational excellence backing that up. So this won't all happen overnight. This will be a multi-year journey. And so with Google Cloud, we're able to both run the legacy brand catalog workload in SQL Server. We're able to iteratively develop new components of functionality for market context and to migrate teams there over time. And so, really can't speak highly enough for how we've really benefited from the flexibility of GCP and are really excited for how it's going to power Wayfair's next 10 years of merchandising excellence. And with that, I'm going to hand things back to Clark to take us home.
Awesome, thanks. All right, thanks Brenton and Augustine. So I'm gonna wrap things up here with a few product announcements that we're excited to share. The first is general availability of new Microsoft license assessment capabilities for migrating customers. There are two places where we are surfacing these new capabilities. First is in our cloud spend estimator, which customers can use during migration planning to generate TCO estimates that properly account for Microsoft licensing and identify the licensing model that is best for their use case. For customers that have utilized our StrataZone solution to scan their on-prem environments, we've also added a Microsoft license assessment report to the StrataZone portal, which enables customers to review Microsoft licensing-aware TCO estimates based on the on-prem data that we've collected via StrataZone. So those are available now. Next, we're excited to announce preview availability of Workload Manager for SQL Server. Earlier this year, we announced general availability of Workload Manager for SAP, a SaaS solution that scans SAP deployments, validates their configurations against known best practices, and surfaces potential security and reliability issues, as well as opportunities to optimize. At the end of this week, we will extend Workload Manager to validate SQL Server deployments on GCP in the same fashion as SAP. We're also actively seeking preview customers. So if you're interested in trying this out, please reach out. We'd love to connect. And last but not least, we have Google Cloud NetApp volumes. This was actually formally announced last week. But just wanted to give it a shout here as well, because I think there's a couple of features that I think are particularly relevant for the Microsoft audience. So if you're familiar with the NetApp offering in GCP Marketplace, you know that it was a close collaboration between Google and NetApp, but ultimately for the customer, it involved interacting with two separate companies. Google Cloud NetApp Volumes is a true native Google product. Customers have a single point of contact for sales, billing, procurement, and support. You can provision it using the API as well as the console. It uses the same access management capabilities as any GCP native service. So it is truly, from a functional standpoint, it behaves just like a native sort of first-party GCP service. The other thing I would want to call out for this audience in particular is that with the addition of Google Cloud NetApp volumes, GCP now, for the first time, has a fully managed SMB storage offering for Windows workloads. All right, so there's a couple of use cases we think that will, that'll light up for us. First is file sharing for VDI users, as well as a shared storage layer for clustered SQL Server deployments.